You know that point in your life when you're growing and you just stuck in that low, am I supposed to ask for forgiveness or am I supposed to forgive my younger self? Right? Like it's that point of your life where you just like, hey, let me apologize to myself, my younger self that is, for the times when I was excessively hard on myself. And I wanted to give up on myself for things that I really had no control over. Or even, hey, I need to forgive my younger self, that is, for the times when I was naive and I believed what other people said about me, and I let it create that thing in me that there was something wrong with me personally, and everybody else was in the right. You know that plot twist where you're just struggling to understand is everything that I had to go through, was it necessary for me developing and identifying myself as who I am before truly understanding who I want everyone else to see me as. It's a really tricky part, but there's that very necessary live conversation between you and maybe 6-year-old or 18-year-old Seo or Balisa, right? Anyways, today I'll be talking to the beautiful, like I'm looking at her and I'm like, oh my gosh, the beautiful Seoketsi, also known as So Power, like literal powerhouse, a soft
Oh,
and
you're making me
strong,
so
self-described, black, powerful, rural, trans woman warrior. Hi, Seo. Hi.
Dumela, Ausile, kae?
This is a
O
guy.
motle jwang?
I'm blushing.
So adobs.
But I think
Stop it. Upalisa batho.
there's one thing I want to know. The one thing I want to know for sure. Where are you from? What's this rural we see? Like your bio just says rural. The information you sent us just says
Yeah,
rural. But what do you know what rural is?
yeah. So I hail from Bokone Bophirima, in a very small town known as Swaziland. Marana, I refer to it as Ipelegeng because also I'm at a phase in my life, I'm just really trying to unlearn and relearn language because that same language that was used against my ways of identity and my ways of, my body existing within this space that was extremely influenced by white monopoly capital culture. So I'm from Bokone Bophirima ku Ipelegeng. I'm not even going to say Swaziland because also that is me being problematic, and I'm also just trying to unlearn and speak about politics of decolonial language.
Okay. I'm gonna
Yeah.
give it to you now. Like the floor is yours. We are talking yeah yourself.
Yeah.
I'm just
I
gonna say
mean,
Maya.
you spoke about like the politics of forgiveness and unforgiveness, right? And so this morning I woke up very emotional. Like this morning I was going through one of my episodes because I was like, yo, I'm going, my mental health is not okay. And I broke down, I broke down. And when I broke down in the shower and I had like 2 hours to get ready for this meeting. And in my mind, I'm wondering, should I be joining this meeting or should I not be joining this meeting? And why should I be joining this meeting whilst my mental health is really not up to par, right? But then one thing that I realized, the ultimate reason for me to be in this space with you, Balesa and Sitadi, is because part of me wanted to really refuse coming onto this space because I'm constantly invited into spaces where I have to share my identity politics and how I've been navigating this space, this entire time. But nobody really asked me, what would you say to your younger self? Is there anything you would try to remind your young self? And I was like, the fact that the topic itself was just so personal yet so political. It hit very close to home because all the time we speak about activism, but we really never speak about who are we. And we most importantly, we forget, where we come from. And where we come from, I mean, where we come from with our bodies, and how far our bodies have allowed us to travel to this intersection until to date, whereby I can actually take up space and say that I am Seoketsi, a Black, rural, Motswana African, Southern African trans woman who wants to say she's sorry to herself. She's sorry to her younger self, um, like ke feel gore ke ikopela maitshwarelo for the young girl that was constantly dehumanized, was constantly, humiliated for being different, and obviously viewing that differentness as a weapon, because that it was used to weaponize me. But growing up and growing up in a rural space where I saw so much violence take place onto my body and my various counterparts, that somehow instilled the culture of hating myself, because there was no language. There was no sort of language that was speaking to visibility and inclusivity and intersectionality around autonomy, particularly around identity politics. And so there I was, a 10-year-old, mimicking the space, wondering, like there was a time where I was so suicidal, because and me, my history of suicide it's always been something that has always been there, from a younger age. And having to constantly be told that you're not enough, and the fact that you were on top of that, still being told that you're not enough, you were still expected to know who you are. But even if you did not know who you are, you are then orchestrated or demonized from society, not taking into cognizance that there was no language in the rural Northwest. There was no language that would explain what was happening with Seoketsi, who's a 10-year-old girl who's wondering what's going to happen to her life, what's going to happen to her, because all the time this space was so erasing and suffocating of me, right? And just, as I think my 16-year-old, as I started like approaching like middle teen years, I started really like, being deliberate about my expression. I couldn't really understand what was happening to me, but I knew that, oh, but girl, you're so powerful. You take up so much space. Wherever you are, your body, your voice, how you look, everything that is to you is power. And I think understanding that on my own, doing the individual work by myself, saved me, because I also acknowledge the little privilege of having maybe people around me, my support structure, um, give me snippets of really navigating this space without being policed, because I mostly encountered police culture within society, but because my grandmother really was not like, she really didn't care about gender identity, about pronouns. My pronoun was gender neutral. I was like, and I think this is what people really don't understand about Setswana, that our language is a very, it's a very compassionate and encapsulating of people's various identities, and it never really segregates you, and never ever uses he or she, but they, right? And I think because of that, being a 16-year-old who had just left primary and not going to high school, I was so conflicted, and I was like, so you don't like girls, as in like relationship, part of living, but you like boys, oh, there's clearly something wrong with you, because all you've been hearing your entire life is that there's absolutely something wrong with you. But problem was that then I believed that there was something wrong with me. Problem was that I allowed people to define myself for myself. And problem back then was that I allowed society to dictate how to navigate space using my body, right? but not anymore, you know. And what I would love to actually say to my younger self is, I'm sorry, I'm not sorry, you know. And why I'm not sorry is because it's okay not to be okay. It's okay to acknowledge that you are not the exception. So many of you, or so many of us will come and go. But what's important is how you draft or write yourself in the books of history. And this is what I'm doing currently.
I think you just changed my whole idea around learning and unlearning cultures and behavior. And I want to speak to you saying that you have to unlearn the language that you were taught, right? You
Yeah.
you wanted to look at yourself differently. And I think the one word that a lot of us need to get out of our vocabulary or identity is not enough.
Mm,
You're not enough,
mm.
but you like
You're
there's
not enough.
something missing.
Yeah. Mm,
We need to get it out of our systems. And
mm.
I just want to ask you, for you, when, how did you know it was time for you to draw the line? Like, this is it.
Yeah.
Not anymore. I'm not taking it. Vala.
Babes, when I decided to stop taking minutes of people's life, and when I stopped allowing people to take minutes on my behalf, when I stopped allowing people to hold the mic on my behalf, and when I took the mic and spoke on my behalf, and the time when I was like, you know what, Miguel, whether you like it or not. And I think because with politics of enoughness, we battle, particularly as Black women, because there's just been so much systematic and historical oppression, that we still, encounter till to date within our bodies, right? I
Mm-hmm.
think around the ages of 18, 20, 21, and even now, because it's ongoing work, even today I did it, right, where I drew the line, and I said enough is enough. And because I had realized that this entire time, this past time, I've always been so invisibilizing of myself because of something we call silent violence, right? And because within violence, we think that you speaking up, there's something wrong with you speaking up. But what we don't realize is that you remaining silent and choosing not to speak up is the problem. And that was what that was what I was always going through, and that is what I'm always going through, battling to know where to draw the line. But I think what's important about drawing the line is to also know when not to draw the line. I think that's one thing that I've taught myself as I navigate this space, that I've taught myself so much to know where to draw the line, but I've never taught myself when not to draw the line. Because even when it comes to boundary politics, you find ourselves knowing, our capabilities, what you want to be said to your bodies, but you never really don't know what to say when something harmful is being said to you, because you never really went through the process of knowing when not to draw the line, because all you've been obsessing about is to draw the line because your body never had the privilege. It's called welfare. So drawing the line was the only, and I'm trying to unlearn drawing the line and trying to learn knowing when not to draw the line.
Hmm. Hectic, hectic. Like, I'm just trying to melt it down in my brain and apply, apply,
Mm,
and applying it in different
mm,
situations. Um, Drawing the line, learning and unlearning. One
mm,
other thing that community or society puts is we are told how we're supposed to look, how you're supposed to behave,
mm,
what we're supposed to
mm,
achieve, at what age
mm,
as a
mm,
successful Black woman.
Mm.
And it's something that a lot of us struggle with, and it's funny because people think that the whole bullying concept begins and ends in childhood, but they do not understand
Yeah.
that with all these lines, with all these rules set in stone but written nowhere, that we lead our lives with, we are still being bullied as members of society.
Mm.
And what
Mm.
I want to what I want to ask you right now is that how do you fight the common understanding of what that supposed success is supposed to look like? How do you how do you create your own understanding of what success is? And if you don't mind, please share it. Please share your own idea of what success for you as surrogates is supposed to be.
I mean, so I guess I mean I have quite a lot, right? I've quite a lot of how I've been like methodologies that I've been using to like navigate or to survive rather. For example, you know, and allowing myself not to be tolerating of others, other people's words, other people's lack of understanding around my autonomy, around my gender identity politics. But personally and politically understanding that my body is a revolutionary act, and that the work that I do is not just for a Seoketsi, but it's also for a younger Seoketsi, and and maybe an upcoming Seoketsi trapped somewhere in rural Bokoni Bupirima and wondering like, am I going to come out alive? Am I going to come out wondering if they leave their yard, and as they leave their yard this morning, are they going to come back intact or are they going to come back as a corpse, right? And and actually I'd actually written something down. Yeah, I just need to find it.
Take your time.
Yes,
Trust
girl.
it's going to
Yes.
be content everyone should hear.
I mean, oh, it's right up, Alice. So you know, like how like people would always say that you need to self-manifest, right? But
Yeah.
also with self-manifestation, we really never understand that with manifesting yourself, you need to have resources. And how people are so fast to actually say that, but you need to manifest. But how do you manifest when you're more worried about where your next food of where your next food of plate or where your food or your plate is going to come from, right? So I learned that whatever you tolerate will never change. So growing up tolerating language, heteronormative language that I even didn't even understand, and in tolerating of it and allowing it to be so dictating of my body. That was one of the mistakes that I did, and that is the one of the mistakes that I'm actually unlearning right now. And learning and unlearning culture is something that doesn't just come, you know, any day. It's a working process. It's a working process because you need to understand what real life actual freedom looks like for you. Because for me, I had to do the digging work. I had to understand so okay, so who are you? You know, because because we live in a society that is heavily governed by patriarchy, more specifically heteropatriarchy, right? And we live in a society that constantly governs our bodies, particularly because we really don't understand the concept of freedom because we still are being governed by what we call a rainbow rhetoricy, right? But just allowing myself to go through that process of self-indulgence, of trying to understand what freedom and real life freedom, not a freedom that is on the constitution, not freedom that I find within an institution, but freedom within my body, right? And trying to redefine and reimagine deliberately what freedom looked like. And when I really realized, because even now I'm still trying to really understand what freedom looks like, if you know, if a black woman can't just walk up to any healthcare spaces and get access to healthcare without really being body shamed, without being HIV shamed, without being like chronic shamed, you know, and what does it mean for a black trans woman to walk into a public space and still be thrown slurs or insults for being a differently powerful woman within the space? What does it mean for a Black rural child who's not going to be able to watch this this webinar, which I think is extremely important, right? And that for me is then not freedom. If you're not able to have people who are supposed to be in this meeting not be here, right? And I think because of that, I was able to understand that, you know what, Seoketsi, it's okay to self-preserve. It's okay to choose when to like avail yourself to spaces, because at first I would be so willing, so giving of my body, so willing, so giving of my spirit, so giving of my politics, so giving of my entire existence, that I never ever ever stopped to ask, but what is freedom, right? What is freedom when I can't access hormones? I've been out of hormones for the past 6 months. What is health? What is freedom when I can't just finish my degree, because there's just so much dynamics upon dynamics. If it's not the system classifying me as a male, now it's the same system that won't allow me to access financial aid, right? And on top of that, it's the system that still regards me as a master on my student card, right? So what is freedom? What is freedom for a Seoketsi? I don't know, but all I know is that I'm freedom, right? Because freedom means you acknowledging the pain and trauma, historical pain and democratic trauma that has been cast onto your body, unbothered, unprovoked, so, but understanding that you are powerful beyond measure. And just even say, like, it hurts me because even just saying this, I just really wish someone was watching this, and probably someone is going to watch this and understand that the work that Black women do is hard work. Just being a Black woman within a space is hard work on itself. And maybe and having this conversation for me, it's Palisa bringing me closer to my freedom, because then I'm able to understand that having such language, having such conversation with radical Black women, it means that I'm somehow closer to my freedom, being able to share language, being able to share struggles, being able to being able to still take the struggle and not use it to weaponize, but use it to move from pain into power. That is where I am right now. So I don't know, babes. I don't know what that strategy of survival looks like, but yeah, I am. So clearly I'm doing something good.
Were you supposed to be that deep? Because I'm just like, you spoke finance, you spoke freedom, you spoke being yourself, and
Yeah.
I recently heard that you are working towards gathering funds for life-changing step.
Yeah.
And only if you please, my dear, please just indulge us on that issue.
I mean, so I'm trying to raise funds for, first and foremost, my hormones, which is a struggle because most people think that if you're a trans girl, there's a certain way of looking, there's a certain way of performing your transness. People think that transness is a performativity, but it's not. What people don't realize is that being a trans girl, it's personal and it's political. You don't have the privilege of choosing on a Monday that I'm going to be a cis girl, or I'm going to be a trans girl on a Wednesday, and then on Friday I'm going to be an activist. You don't have that privilege. So I am fundraising for my hormones, but also for my gender reconstructive surgery, that I'll be obviously undergoing sooner, hopefully sooner. So, but obviously, because it's a lot of fun, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money, because hormones that I take on a daily basis monthly cost me about 950, right? That is just hormones on itself. So you can just even calculate what 980 rands looks like for a disempowered, unemployed, trans woman, right? Because that would mean that I probably have to spend about, sorry, like maybe for 13K in a year just to like bring myself closer to myself, right? And on top of that, I'm trying to also raise funds for not just myself, but also for Black trans girls back at home, because so many of them have been like DMing me and asking me, oh, CEO, like, CEO, where do we get hormones? And also, what with that said, what happens to us after we take hormones, right? So I'm not only do I have to like now raise funds for my hormones for myself, I now have to also like invite and cultivate a community, because I'm not just myself, I'm also a community, right? And just having to raise funds has taken its toll on me, because it's something that I realized that, wow, when I cried this morning, I was crying because I felt so much disempowered. I felt so much ashamed. I felt so much embarrassed at the fact that why couldn't you just reach or make or fundraise 150K for yourself without having to invite the world within your body, and because this is somehow going to come back to bite you. And this is my anxiety talking, right? Because I feel like this is going to come back to bite me, because now people would think that they're more entitled and more authoritative to be like to be like policing and and be moralistic of my body, right? But I then realized that I'm not doing this for no one. I'm not doing this for no cisgender heterosexual man. I'm not doing this for no one who hates me without really understanding who your power is, right? I'm not doing this for someone that is not here for me. I'm doing this for myself and a person that is here for me. I'm doing this for you, Balesa, because this is going to bring myself closer to myself, right? And I'm doing this for my community, to show girls that you can actually be a trans girl. You can actually be a trans girl without having to go through like hormonal replacement therapy. You don't have to be feminine presenting. You can still be your masculine presenting self. You can still stay off hormones. You can still not choose to go for GRC or GRS, which is gender reconstructive surgery. But it does not take away from the fact or the agency that you are a trans girl, right? And I think I'm not doing this because I'm bored. I'm doing this because I'm bringing, like I keep saying that I'm bringing myself closer to myself, because I had been so divorced from myself that I thought that being someone else, acting like someone else for half of my life was going to like bring me closer to myself. But not only did I realize that that caused a lot of damage and a lot of delay in my life, but I started understanding that being selfish with yourself, Seoketsi, is okay. Being selfishly deliberate with yourself is okay. Choosing you for yourself and understanding that by choosing you, you're saving yourself is okay. And understanding that me taking hormones, I'm not taking hormones because I want to perform my trustness, or I'm doing it for someone else. I'm doing it for myself. I'm doing it for my own sanity. I'm doing it so that when I write myself into the books of history, I live on forever. For the Black trans rural child who's somewhere in the rural, who don't know language, who does not understand, but they probably hear of Seoketsi Mooketsi. Wow, there was like this, your sibling, your mother, your sister, who took up so much space and went through this process. It's so sad that I have to put my body on the line to create a narrative for Black rural trans girls, but it is what it is. I don't have that privilege, but yeah.
I want to take from this entire talk that we need to set for our younger selves, for the sake of our mental health, the need to emancipate ourselves from the negativity that is out there, from the
Yeah.
negativity that we had to live with growing up. And just remind our younger selves that, girl, you did it. You got out of there alive. You are
You're the
here.
queen. Hey, queen, you did it.
Strength, man. You are amazing.
Right?
You just always beautiful. Like, can't even find enough adjectives to explain. But you are it, and you are what.
Right? So today I was like, let me wear my crown because, so Katie, you have been wearing so much crowns that were never yours. But today I stand in front of you and in front of the masses and hopefully in front of my community back at home to show them that you can look however you want to look like. Wear your crown. This is your actual crown, right? Don't go around wearing people's crown, because by wearing other people's crown, you'll eventually become someone's crown. Understanding that you becoming your own crown is a personal, political, revolutionary act. And understanding that showing up however you look like, with or without your makeup, is still a revolutionary act, you know? Yeah.
Thank you very much, Seal, for your time. I think a lot of people need to hear this, and I think a lot of people will be very, very appreciative of the fact that you allowed yourself, especially after what you went through today, to be here in this moment and speak to us. Saying that, ne, after thinking that people might want to, I'm just going to put you out there even more.
Yes!
So guys, please on your you must be that girl that says link in bio. There must be so that you can donate, you know? You want a link in your bio.
Babe, I can even send you my PayPal and my Venmo. I'm that girl. I'm thinking.
Everybody, are you ready? On that note, for everyone that wants to connect with Seo, her Instagram handle is Seo Power. No underscore, no nothing, just at Seo Power. And then, unfortunately, concludes today's talk. I would love to continue talking to you because you have so much to share and so much to teach us.
Yeah.
I think not only are the people that are going to be watching this learning, but also learned a lot from speaking to you today. So thank you. I think
thank you so much, Pali.